Hi guys and welcome to my review of the KEFINE Klanar. This is a brand new Hi-Fi company that has decided to introduce itself into the market straight away with a planar driver. That's a pretty bold move in my opinion, but at the same time they have benefit from the fact that there are countless other planars already available, and so I'm sure that lessons were learned and lessons were taken and ideas were surely taken from other IEMs in order to have achieved what they've achieved with the KEFINE. Um, Simple packaging, as you can see, nothing really special, very simple. It's got some information in the back, as is usually the case. 14.5 millimeter driver, 16 ohm impedance, 105 dBs of sensitivity, so it's relatively easy to run. It's available in 3.5 and 4.4 millimeter cable terminations. I've got the 4.4, as you could see. And simple, you open up the actual box itself. And once you open the box, again, you will have a carrying case and the IEM sitting over there. The carrying case brings basically everything inside, and it's a generic case, nothing, nothing special, basic, does the job. The tips, again, are pretty generic, but surprisingly, they actually did the job better than what I was expecting. And although I did try my usual KB 07s, and I tried some Tangzu Senkai tips and some velvets as well, I tried a couple of tips on it. I honestly didn't see any significant difference in the performance for me to say to myself, no, it justifies using a different tip. The stock tips, in my opinion, are fine. I would have liked to maybe have seen a tip that looks more the business, because they just look very flimsy. But on the positive side is that because of the shell design, it does allow for a deep insertion, and so the tip does actually let me fit the IEM nice and deep into my ear canal, and that is always favorable. At least I always consider that to be the best. If you are able to fit it in deep, you do away with a lot of resonances and so on, which can cause havoc. Cable wise, it's got a nice cable. Nothing wrong with the cable. It's a 4-core affair, simple. Only thing that I would have liked is a nicer termination here on the actual plug. I mean, the cable itself is nice plug, nice termination here on the IEM side would have been nice. As for the IEMs themselves, small shell. I mean, for a 14.5 millimeter planar, it's a small shell, all metal, okay, and very understated. I mean, this thing goes very unnoticed. I mean, I've got it here, and you look at this selection of IEMs here, and it's probably not the first one that will jump to you if I have it sitting in the middle. There are other IEMs here which are way more eye-catching. But anyway, it is what it is. They've tried to take the more classy, the more understated approach, and I like that. I've always liked the sleeper look. Let's put it that way. So that's it. In terms of its fit, it's fine, no issues there. I can fit it nicely. It's not fatiguing. It's not a heavy IEM. Basically they've ticked all the boxes. The only thing that I would have liked, honestly, I think it would have been a little bit just more gratifying, would have been a more customized case. This is very generic. More customized case would have been nice. And perhaps better looking tips. But like I said, these are nitpicks. That's really not important. What is important is how does it sound, and the truth is it sounds very nice, very nice. I know I'm jumping the gun here, but it sounds very nice. Anyway, I've selected a whole bunch of IEMs here, which are all planars, and they're divided into size category. There are a few more that I could have added, but I just wanted to not complicate things too much, and I think already I have. But anyway, it is what it is, and that's what we have here. So we've got here the KZ PR1 Pro. I've selected the PR1 Pro over the PR2 because the PR2 did have a few issues with, the change in the way that the tuning was done, and that created a whole bunch of turmoil and havoc and so on. So I thought, keep to the PR1 Pro. It's safer. It's the same thing all across the board. I've got 3 pairs. All 3 pairs measured the same. They sound the same. And the reality is, after careful listening and carefully comparing it to the PR2, especially with the version which is now available more commonly, that is a better IEM. It is a better IEM. The PR2, by losing a little bit in the mid bass, but also by as well attenuating the upper mids and treble, does maybe become less fatiguing. But you know what? I think it's nice to strike that balance. It's planar DD, strike that that balance. Okay, you get the best of a planar, but you also go and try and fetch some characteristics of a DD, which is that more physical aspect of the sound. Okay, that more warmer tonality. But this is a planar, so if it's a planar, it's got to have a little bit of a planar characteristic. Otherwise, it's pointless. Otherwise, you just buy a DD and be done with it. So the Pure One Pro, in my opinion, I think is the better of those two crazy offerings, and that's why I've got it here. Next with the nice HIFIGO F1, very understated IEM, tuning nozzles, works the business. Perhaps its only flaw is the fact that it's got a weird shape, which can be problematic to some. The same thing applies to the RTTI T10, as well, an unusual shape. Not the nicest of builds. They could have done something here with the shell in terms of its finish to make it look a little bit better. Fair enough, it is $80, basically the same price as the PR1 Pro. It's made by Let's Sure, so that in itself already is I think enough to guarantee that you've got a quality product there. Okay, you definitely do. Tin Hi-Fi P1 Max, one of my favorites. I've got two here. Why? Because that's the original one, which I have 3 pairs of, and they all sounded the same. They all measured the same. This one is one that I got now in 2023 in July, if I'm not mistaken, and the tuning has changed significantly. So I'm assuming that there's been a silent revision of the tuning. The tuning now is now more reminiscent of nice HIFIGO F1, T10, KEFINE, more along those lines. It's not as flat as it was on the original P1 Max. Very noticeable the difference. Timeless had to be here because it was the granddaddy, so it just had to be here. Then I've got here the two Tengzu Zetian or Zetian Wu, whichever way you want to say it, the Heyday and the original. The Heyday, yes, that bring along more that DD-like sound, but it wasn't without flaws. And after you actually start listening a little bit more, and you listen, and especially for this review, I did a lot of those comparisons. I have to say that ultimately, with its flaws that it also has, the original, I tended more towards the original than to the Heyday. Why? Because it's got just that little extra amount of twinklies and sparklies that is missing a little bit too much there. Maybe that also can be down to the fact that I'm becoming deaf, so I miss those details up top. And those of you which are still capable of hearing fully won't notice it, but the reality is this has got a little bit more twinklies and sparklies. It just satisfies me more, and it's got a little bit more bass than the Heyday. So again, it just appeals more to me. The Stellaris next to that one, which is an IEM, which I really didn't understand what was going on there. It had everything to be fantastic IEM. It just was tuned in a very poor manner. Yes, there are good things about its tuning, but no. And then it's an absolute mule when it comes to power. I mean, while the majority of the other IEMs here are all centered between the 14 and 20 ohm impedance, and relatively easy, that one has got a 36 ohm impedance, and it's an absolute, and lack of a better word, would excuse me please, it's a bitch. I have my A50 easily at halfway all the time, while with the others I can have it at 1/4 and it's fine. I get the same sort of volume level. So coupled into the fact that the mids, upper mids and treble are tuned in that aggressive manner, when you turn up the volume, that thing wants to kill you. End of story. That's the reality. Next to that, the MP145 from HiDiz. Some controversy surrounding a crowdfunding project that was involved with it, but anyway, that's not what's important. What is important is the sound, and it sounds fantastic. Of this newer generations of planars which is coming out now, which follow a little bit more that design tuning philosophy of the Heyday and of the PR2 to a certain extent, which is try and control that planar negativity in terms of its metallicness. That one there, I think, is probably one of the most exceptionally well done IEMs. Fantastic. Its real flaw, its real flaw is the huge size. I mean, this thing looks like Goliath next to some of these other IEMs. Just for the sake of comparison here, let me just pick up here. Okay, that's the MP145, and that's the KEFINE, the Klanar. I mean, they both have similar sized planar drivers inside, and the difference is monumental. You could almost say there's 2 drivers inside here, which is actually something that I'm curious to see when somebody will do that. I'm actually curious to see when someone will actually put two drivers, 14.5 or 14.2 or whatever drivers into a planar. And then on this right hand side, I've got the Let's Show S12, the original, and the Pro. Again, the difference between the two of them was a better executed bass here as compared to the original, better executed mids, upper mids, and well, especially upper mids and treble as compared to the original. More restrained, more controlled, not as aggressive. Okay. So what do we have then about the KEFINE? The KEFINE has got a very nice sound. It's got a smooth bass that doesn't lack really in anything. It's got ample sub bass, ample mid bass. You know, I didn't really notice. Let me try and see here, for example, a song Up and Up from Jeff Ryan sounds fantastic in it, but in terms of the bass, I like using From Dusk to Dawn from George Duke. Plenty impact, plenty mid bass slam to give that song it's the necessary energy. Let me see, yeah, Elephant as well from Carol Duboc, fantastic. The Comfort Zone, the live version from Larry Carlton, again another song that does it perfectly. Riviera, the Bob Zapp remix from Billy Esteban, fantastic. So although it's not a bass head IEM by any means, it's got more than enough energy for me, at least in terms of the sub bass extension and how low it can go, and the mid bass impact to give songs its realistic, its realism. It's got very much that old school big bass home speaker, but with quality type of sound. Okay, it's clean, it's impactful, it's got authority. Transition to the mids are perfect, no bleed. It's just very nice. And then we have a dip around 2.53. We have a slight dip between there and about 7K, which kind of calms down even more the female vocals and certain instruments, trumpets, saxes, and that transition into then the treble becomes a little bit more smoother, a little bit more relaxed. Ultimately, maybe in female vocals you can notice that they can sound a little bit more overly relaxed. But no, I mean, Moon River from Jacinta, I've never really noticed that. I did notice a little bit that extra relaxed sound in something like, for example, Feel So Good from Diane Reeves. I did notice that a little bit. Piece of Me from Candace Springs as well. I did notice that that it just sounded. It was not that it sounded dead, but it just sounded a little bit relaxed. It needed a little bit extra energy, but. Guys, this is me. This is, you know, my personal taste. This is not by any means a flaw or anything of the sort. It sounded fine. It's perfect. Treble, very well executed. It's got enough energy to give planar, let's say, sensations, but also keeping things on the tab so that it doesn't sound metallic, overly metallic, and we don't run that risk of it becoming fatiguing after a while of listening, which is something that, for example, on the Stellaris is very easy to happen. On the Timeless, after a certain period of time of listening to it, because the treble is a little bit too much as compared into as well the bass that's present, you get a little bit fatigued, and you end up having to turn the volume down, or then just swapping out of IEMs altogether. The S12, the original one, also suffered a little bit from that. And this newer generation of planars, which, you know, some of them, this tuning philosophy began with, like I said, the Heyday. The F1 was doing the same thing already. They have that area there of the end section of the mids into the upper mids and the treble. They have it more relaxed, more subdued, and just gives us a smoother, easier going presentation. The P1 Max, for example, was an IEM that already did that, but for some reason it never really got the love that it deserved. And ultimately, I guess you can say that the bass hasn't got the same presence as the bass on the F1, as the bass on the T10, as the bass on the Heyday, on the Buzetti, on the original one, as the bass on the KEFINE, as the bass on the MP145. And I think it was that really ultimately meant that people kind of didn't gravitate towards it so much. Although, like I said, it's one of my favorite planars, and if you give it power, that thing sings. But when I say give it power, I'm not saying power to the levels of the Stellaris. I mean, that is easy to drive compared to the Stellaris. Okay, so bass, mids, and treble on the Klanar are, in my opinion, well executed. Just that slight dip there, which can kind of hinder a little bit the female vocals, but nothing special. Technically, it's got a nice wide sound stage. It's just not as deep or as tall as I would like, and I think it has to do with that dip that exists there. That, you know, that compromise of wanting to not be harsh, not be aggressive, has come at the cost of losing a little bit that size in terms of the of the soundstage. Imaging is good unless it starts getting a little bit overcomplicated, the track, and then you do see that it struggles a little bit, which is something that, for example, the Stellaris will do very well always. Imaging on the Stellaris is really, really good. So imaging, soundstage imaging, detailed retrieval is fine. Nothing, I would say it's actually exceptional, the detailed retrieval here. And then the resolution as well, very good. So technically it is a capable IEM, although it's not exceptional in any particular, well, okay, yes, the detailed retrieval, yes, but it's not like it does anything so much better than the other ones that is over here. Okay, it's very much on the same level, and it's all down to, like I said, reaching that balance of being technically capable and being non-aggressive, non-metallic, being a little bit more DD-like in its tonality and its timbre, which, by the way, is a thing that it does very, very well. Actually, if I have to be totally fair, timbre and tonality on the KEFINE and then its detailed retrieval are probably the two best technical capabilities that it has, without question. Very, very nice. The timbre and tonality, be it in the bass, the texture, the realism that the bass has, be it in the mids, be it in the treble, it's always very real. It's always very true. It doesn't. There's no colorness feel. There's no color, no fakeness associated with it. So in that department, top marks. Compared then to these IEMs that I've selected here, like I said, the KEFINE shares a similar curve to some IEMs which are here, namely the ones which are the most similar: the F1, the T10, the P1 Max, this potentially revised version, the original Buzetian, the MP145, and the S12. These are the ones which are the most similar. The KZ is also very much there, and the ones which then differentiate itself the most are the P1 Max, the Timeless, and the Stellaris, and the original S12 are the ones which differentiate itself the most. Basically, we have to, like I said already before, it's this compromise between giving a sound which is pure planar and giving a sound which is pure DD, and then striking this balance of wanting that planar goodness without the planar badness, and giving it as well a DD feel to obtain more that lushness, that more full warm sound without that coldness that can sometimes be present in planars because of that overly metallic sound. And when you start doing the comparisons, these ones that I selected, they sound very similar to the Klanar. The differences that reside between things like the F1, the T10, the P1 Max, the revised version, the Buzetian, the MP145, and here is how that 3 to 7, 8K area is done. How that area there is done, and what sort of extension we have past 10K. That's the differences that exist here, because before 2.5, 3K, they are basically the same. Even the KZ is very similar. They all perform in a very similar manner. They all have basically the same bass energy. And although, like I said in the beginning, there are different sizes in the actual driver diaphragm size. I mean, 13.2, 14.2, 14.5, and then 14.8. The reality is that those differences in diaphragm size are not as noticeable as what you would probably think. And ultimately, these ones over here, this section here, I think basically are the same or similar version or different itinerations of the same driver. They basically are, they all use basically very much the same driver with different configurations of how the magnets are laid out on either side of the diaphragm. How much of that area is then covered or exposed, so that balance between the magnets and the diaphragm actually being covered and exposed. And that's why, although there is differences, physically they'll all look the same. 14.2 for 14.5, how I mean, please, how can you tell the difference, So, compared to the KZ, ultimately, yes, this is a better IEM because of the way that it's more polished and smooth in its upper mids and treble as compared to the KZ. It's not as detailed up top as the KZ, especially at lower volumes, but ultimately this does come out on top of the KZ. Is it a bloodbath? No, it isn't a bloodbath, but it's a more polished execution of the sort of sound you get on the KZ, on the pure one. Compared to the T10, honestly, this is basically a tie. They are so similar. The differences that exist here is that some songs, yes, you have a little extra energy there in that 3 to 7K area as compared to this here, and that benefits that song and benefits ultimately the T10. Other songs, it's not that it doesn't benefit, but it doesn't bring anything added to it. So there's no real winner, no loser here. They are very, very similar. Okay, F1 from Nice HK, basically the same thing. What I applied to the T10 applies itself over here. Compared then to the P1 Max, P1 original one, very flat, completely flat. A little bit more mid-bass as compared to this, yes, not as much sub-bass extension, so not as much that full lushness of the sound as you get on here. That there sounds a little bit thinner by comparison, but it's a fantastic IEM. It sounds really, really good, the P1 Max, the original one. Ultimately, they are different, and so there's no real winner or loser. That's very much as neutral as you can get. This one obviously is got more of a, I'm not even going to say V because it's a V shape. It's not, I don't think it would be the most correct way to judge it, but it's a more more, okay, fine, more neutral, more emphasized, more colored here. Compared to the revised version, which I think is the situation here, they sound almost the same. It's what happens with the F1 and the T10 is basically what happens here. Compared to Timeless, Timeless is good. It sounds good, nothing wrong with it, but it sounds bass thin as compared to this. Doesn't have the same polish in the upper mids and the treble as compared to this. So yes, it shows its age. This is a better IEM. Okay. Compared to the Wuzetian Brothers, compared to the original one, compared to the Heyday version, this little bit more bass, mids basically the same, little bit more detail up top, and technically as well, slightly edging out here and there. I would say that this edges out the Heyday ever so slightly, not a bloodbath. Compared to the original one, they're about equal, although there's more detail here. That detail does come at the price of a little bit of harshness on specific times, which doesn't happen here. So they kind of cancel each other in that department. So they basically are equals. Compared to the Stellaris, no comparison. The Stellaris only beats the Klanar in having more detail at lower volume. The moment you crank up the volume, it's a mess. Funny enough, in terms of the bass, if you can actually abstract yourself from the upper mids and treble, the bass is actually very similar. So it's actually a curious one. MP145, absolute beast of an IEM, obviously more expensive. Does it justify its price over the KEFINE? I would say yes, because those tuning nozzles do give us the possibility to have two very distinct tunings. So that versatility, I think, is well worth the extra $30, give or take. Its problem is just the size. So if you've got small ears, that thing is going to be a nightmare for you. So, forget it. And then compared to the S12 Pros, compared to the original S12, at lower volumes, yes, I would say that the S12 perhaps edges out slightly the Klanar, not a massive thing, but it also showcases, like I said, more that aggressiveness and so on and so forth in the treble and upper treble, in the mids and upper mids and treble, as opposed to this here. It's just less, it's not as polished. The Timeless and the S12, they are just not as polished in the way that they've executed the mids, upper mids and treble. That's the reality. Compared to the S12 Pro, more similar. It's just again that area there between 3 and 5 that over here it's a little bit energetic, so it can get a little bit too much at times. But otherwise, very, very similar once again. So, in a nutshell, the Klanar as a first driver or first IEM for this company is amazing, fantastic. They've done perfectly. There's no flaw here. But at the same time, there's no real standout feature. What it does have is a very competitive price. Okay, I mean, like I said, 80. This is about 130. This is 80, 70, 80. That one actually. That's the P1. You can get it from Linsoul for $100. Timeless not available anymore. The Heyday not available. The Wuzetian as well not available anymore. But these ones were priced at anywhere between $170 and $200. Stellaris about 110. The MP145 about 160, 150, 160, and the S12 Pro is still available. Well, actually both of them are still available. You can get that sometimes for like 115, and this for like 145. in stock format, if you do not have a planer and you're now buying a planer, yes, this is a very solid choice. $120, what it offers, very, very solid. Fit wise, it's amazing. So straight away I would choose this over the T10, although like I said, they sound comparable, they sound almost the same. So sound wise, the T10 and the KEFINE are very similar. But this has a fit which is not exactly the best. This has a much more user-friendly fit. So this is what makes sense here. Compared to the PR1, yes, you get a little bit more extra polish and the sound. So again, you could say that there's a justification for the difference in price. Compared to the nice HDK, they are similar. The gain that's got a weird shape, this probably makes the most sense. Compared to the Tin Hi-Fi, the P1 Max, tie, because this also fits flawlessly. You know, and it sound-wise, it doesn't offer or doesn't lose anything to the KEFINE. Heyday, well, we can't compare. The Buzetian as well, the same thing, like the same thing with the Timeless. The Stellaris, 110, 100, 120. I think you know the answer, this obviously. MP145, I believe the MP145, because it's got those nozzles, it can justify its price difference there, but then the size becomes an issue. So, you know, and there's 12, again, if you keep it in the stock format. So let's forget now about Michael Bruce's mods, which are fantastic, by the way. I've tried them. They are absolutely amazing. Let's forget Michael Bruce's mod. Let's say that you are not a person that wants to mod, you don't want to lose warranty, forget that. Stock to stock, probably the Klanar will edge out slightly the P1 Pro, the S12 Pro, by being more balanced out ultimately. You know, that's the truth, that's the reality. So, you know, it's competitively priced. It has got more than enough things to justify it being a solid choice over some of these IEMs if you don't have a planer. If you already have a planer, that's a different story altogether. You know what I'm saying? So if you already have some of these planers, buying this is not going to bring you anything extra to the equation. All right. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up. All right. Take care. Okay, guys, let's talk about now the graph for the KEFINE Klanar. Let me take away all of these graphs here so that we can start seeing things a little bit better and leave just the Klanar up there, which is what we want to see, which I believe is exactly. Alright, so this is the KEFINE Klanar. As you can see, nice execution. I mean, everything sits within a window of so 53 to 67. So you would think 13 dBs, oh wow, this is going to be a mess, a bloat. No, because in reality, the meat of things sits within a window of 53 to 63, so roughly 10 dBs, so it's fine. Planars get away with having apparently an excessive bass output by not actually sounding that way. If this was 13 dBs of gain in a DD, you would notice the difference definitely. It's well done, the bass. It's basically flat by 200 Hertz, so nobody needs the mids. The gain, the pinna gain, although it peaks here at 2, you don't really notice that early peak. You don't. It's again, I think it's a fact that it's a planar which gives us this perception. And then we have this dip, like I said, and this dip is basically the differentiating factor to many of these other IEMs here which share a similar curve. The first one I'm going to be showing you is the RTTI. As you can see, very similar. The difference here is exactly here in this area between 3 and 6, 7K. The bass is the same. It sounds exactly the same kind of texture, weight, tonality, everything. Past 10K, the same sort of extension. It's just here, and the upper mids and treble. And what that means is that, yes, the RTTI, maybe there are occasions where it sounds a little bit intense, but in reality, no, it doesn't. It doesn't sound intense, because I never found a single song that was aggressive or harsh. If anything, it actually gives those female vocals that I mentioned that added energy that sometimes is needed, and that the Klanar just does it in a more refined, in a more relaxed manner, which can take away a little bit that added feel to that song. But guys, trust me, what I'm talking about is really, really minor things. It's nothing significant. Okay, so that's the T10 compared to the Klanar. The one that I'm going to show you now, I'm actually going to show you first. Where is it? Yeah, I'm actually going to show you the Stellaris first. This is the Stellaris. Take away here the T10. And as you can see, the Stellaris, yeah, it's a little bit less bass, noticeable, but it's this excess that it has here, and the extension past 10, which, yes, at lower volumes, it's very nice. It helps with making things very, very detailed. So, but no, definitely not. No, definitely not something that you wanna listen to for prolonged periods of time. Okay, so that's the Stellaris out of the way. Let me actually just erase it here straight away so we don't. Okay, now P1 Max. We have the P1 Max here in the original version, which is this, which you can see it's flat. I mean, that is flat. That's neutral, and it sounds absolutely amazing. Fine, fair enough. Compared to the KEFINE, you do notice that obviously the KEFINE does have that added energy here. But the P1, no aggressiveness, nothing. It loads of detail. It is a fantastic IEM. Honestly, these complement each other. I would probably say the P1 Max is the only IEM that if you do own it and you want a complement to it, the Klanar would be a good complement to it. Would be a solid complement to the P1 Max out of all the IEMs that I mentioned here. All right. So that's the original one. And then the revised one that I have is this graph here, which when I just put the two of them together, you can see there's a significant difference. It's got now the bass that probably you would like, but it also has added energy here to this area of the mids, upper mids and treble. That makes it, comparatively to the Klanar, almost identical, as you can see. So the revised P1, almost identical. It's also got that kind of dip there, so no aggressiveness, nothing. So it's basically the same IEM. Very, 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 very similar. Obviously, the problem here is when you buy it, if this revision has been in fact done, will you get this version or will you get the stock one or the original one? Well, we don't know. We can't tell unless you measure it. But as you can see, and I'll show it to you again, the difference is noticeable. I have 3 of the original ones with the original tuning. They all measured the same. I have one of these. I just didn't buy a second one, and it's way too different. Way too different. Okay. Anyway, that's the P1 out of the way. Next one I'm going to show you is the HIFIGO, the MP145 using the silver nozzle. A little bit more mid-bass, which is noticeable, but the biggest difference between the MP145 sound-wise, and I actually forgot to mention that when I was talking earlier, is in terms of its soundstage. It's the one here that has the biggest soundstage, without a question. It really has that planar grandeur in terms of soundstage, and it sounds, it's very easily noticeable, height, depth, width, everything. Its problem is really only the size that it has. That aside, you know, it's the price difference is not significant. So if you are able to listen to both of them, I would say listen to both of them and then decide which one you prefer. The fact that the HIFIGO also offers the possibility of a slightly different tuning with the different nozzles, I guess is also a positive plus point. It's really just the size of the shell that's the issue. Okay, so that's the HIFIGO. Next one I'm going to show you now is the F1, and once again, actually let me just change the color here. There we go. And once again, you have a very similar presentation. As you can see, F1, P1 Max with the revised version of the P1 Max. Okay, the 3 of them, they are basically identical. I mean, you know, the differences are almost non-existent. It's just the shell which changes between them, and that's it. And oh, and the RTT10, actually look at the RTT10 as well. RTT10, KEFINE Klanar, P1 Max with the revised version, if in fact it is true, and the F1, they are identical. Okay, So let's take this away out. KZ PR1 Pro. I think it speaks for itself as well. It's got this little extra energy here, which you do notice that it can make it a little bit fatiguing, and as well that energy there is a little bit excessive. Yes, it is true, but honestly, not such a huge deal breaker, to be totally honest. To be totally honest, it's not such a huge deal breaker. So that's the PR1 Pro. The next one I'm going to show you is now exactly the Wuzetians. So this is the Heyday edition, okay, and this is the original edition. Original, let me just make it a different color here so it stands out. Let me make it purple. Okay, so the purple one, as you can see, it's got basically the same base as the KEFINE. Let me just take away the Heyday for a second. Basically the same thing. More energy here and the same sort of extension after it. When you compare it with the Heyday, and let me just take away now quickly the KEFINE, you notice that the Heyday's got less space. You can pick up on it. The balance that's been struck between that and the mids somehow works more in favor of the Heyday being a little bit smoother, but it loses that extra detail up top, that twinkly and the sparkly. So I ultimately prefer the original Wuzetian because of that. The little extra bass that it has and the twinkly and the sparkly, it just sounds more appealing to me. But either one of them are really good. Okay, compared to the Klanar, as you can see, probably the one that's the most similar is the original Wuzetian. So if you have an original Wuzetian and you already know what basically the Klanar is going to be sounding like, except for the fact that the Wuzetian has got a little extra energy in this area between 3 and 7, which does help out female vocals a little bit and gives them a little extra energy. And that's it, guys. I mean, there's nothing really more I can say. The Klanar is a well-tuned IEM. It sounds good. Price that it has is ultimately its biggest strength that it has, because it offers very much the performance of what you can get out of way more expensive planar IEMs, and the performance equal and or exceeding as well some of the previous best planar IEMs that you had over the past year and a half. And what more can I tell you? Give it a try, listen to it and see if you like it, see if this is a signature that appeals to you. Okay, anyway guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Take care now, bye bye.